to, welcome back to the new year. New year, new season. Welcome back to All Eyes on the Ball. Y'all should be very much familiar with us by now. Yeah, my name is Dylan Cotton. Co-host over here, Connor Cotton. And today we have a very, 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 very special guest on the show with us today. Introduce yourself.
My name is Blaine Smith, old-time football player. Played my college football at Purdue, captain of the team, 76, all Big Ten, 75, 76, third team All-American, Leonard Losers All-American, and we'll have to talk about that designation. And drafted in the 7th round, had a little time with Cleveland, Green Bay, and the New York Jets back in the day before the money was good.
So for the people, I know you just introduced yourself, but for the people that don't know like the specific information, Blaine is 6'5", 248, drafted 7th round, 184th pick to the Cleveland Browns. Just to get that out there. So first thing that we're gonna talk about is how, on a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate your time at Purdue?
Man, I'd rate that 11 plus. I had a ball at Purdue, still know some really great guys at Purdue. I mean, the whole experience, just getting there and then meeting the people that you meet, Otis Armstrong, you meet Leroy Keys. I'm still a personal friend, and we call ourselves brothers from another mother, Randy Clark. Jappy Oliver, his real name is Jerome Oliver, out of Flint. We were teammates at Purdue, roommates at Purdue. Randy and I were roommates at Purdue. We've done so much together. It reminds me, you guys are sort of young, but it was a scene in the movie from the Temptations, and they had gotten older, and one of the Temptations turned around and said, "Man, we had a good time." He said, "No, man, we had a hell of a time." That's the way I look at that.
And for the people that want to call in on the show and ask Blaine a few questions, call-in number for the show is 313-355-6018 if you guys want to ask Blaine questions. All right, so second. What's your favorite memory at Purdue before you turned pro?
I had so many memories. One of the things that kicked off my Purdue career, and I always tell people I don't even know why they played me. We're freshmen, and everybody's getting ready for the first freshman game, and you guys are young, so I'm going to preference myself. This was 1973. In 74, they passed Title IX, which means there could be no more JV teams because that money had to go to women's sports, so they would be on an equal par. But in 73, we get ready to go up to Northwestern on a Monday because you got to remember it's JV, games at 12 o'clock. And I detected there might be some problems because Chris Barr and I was fighting for a defensive end spot. Mike Barr was Chris Barr's brother, and Mike Barr was an assistant defensive end coach. So I went to Coach Agassi and them, and I said, "Hey, man, I think it's going to be a problem when we get to Northwestern, so tell me, how are they going to play us? You know, I don't care if I'm second quarter, fourth quarter. I don't care if he's first quarter, third quarter." So we warm up. I was supposed to get the first quarter and the third quarter. We warm up, and Mike Barr says, "Chris Barr." So I said, "Okay, I got the second and the fourth. I'll finish the game." Second quarter, Mike Barr says, "Chris Barr" again. So at halftime, I started rocking because I'm about to go nuts.
Who was Mike Barr?
Mike Barr was Chris Barr's brother, but he was the assistant defensive end coach.
Okay.
And I just knew coming out of Gary, Indiana. To me, Gary, Indiana is like the east side of Detroit. It's rough, it's tough, it's gritty. And I'm the 16th child of 17 children, so my parents had told me all about racism because that's why we left the South when I was 4 years old. It's a crazy place. So I didn't want nothing to interfere. So, it's halftime, and I'm thinking, okay, I got the third and fourth. And when Mike Barr said, "Chris Barr got the third," I went nuts. I was yelling, I was cussing, and I'm talking about real cussing. And you got to remember, this is Dyke Stadium on a Monday in September. Curse words reverberating off of the light poles and going crazy. And we had a black coach called Coach Wynn. All of the white coaches ran to Coach Wynn and said, "What are we going to do with him?" Coach Wynn said, "Put his black ass in the game, and if he can't play, we'll drop him off in Gary, Indiana." I never looked back from there. Went out there. Northwestern had a two-back lead play where the two backs tried to block the defensive end. They tried to hit me. I got rid of both of those guys, hit the quarterback, ball flies up in the air, but Purdue recovers. Referees pointing the other way. After that, I started working my way off of the demonstration squad to the varsity.
So they actually had JV.
That was the last year of JV because once Title IX, which was a federal law, passed, all of that money for JV, junior varsity football, basketball, baseball, all of that went to girls sports. Now you either play varsity or you don't make the cut.
For college?
Yeah, but that was you got to remember, that's 1974.
Yeah, because I never knew that.
Yeah.
I never knew that there was a JV in college.
Yep.
I don't think y'all knew that either.
No, anybody as young as you guys or who aren't real students and historical students of the game, they wouldn't know that.
Yeah, I had no knowledge of that.
Yep.
So, at your time at Purdue, did you play both sides of the ball?
No, you see, you asking some good questions, man. I appreciate you young fellas having me here. Back at the time, okay, we go back to first day everybody shows up.
Yep.
Purdue recruited me hard, as did Notre Dame, as did Michigan, a couple of other schools, Alabama. My brother was at Purdue. He was going to be a senior at the time. And, I played basketball, football, baseball, ran track. And Gary, whenever we didn't have a sport, I'd go down and visit my brother. So I already knew what Purdue was like on a party tip and a school tip. So when I get down there, they telling me, Blaine, you're the only defensive end we want. We really want you. We get in the first meeting, and Coach said, would all the defensive ends stand up? I'm sitting in the front row because I'm not bashful at all. I hear chairs behind me rattling. I turn around and see about 12 other guys stand up. 11 white guys, one black guy, Earl Milligan. he was from southern Indiana. And so I didn't move. And trying to think of the coach's name, Coach Dale. I can't think of his last name right now. But he said, Blaine, aren't you a defensive end? And I was so nuts. I said, I thought I was the only one. And everybody started laughing. So the first day of practice when we started, I said, I ain't messing with all them dudes. Somebody's got to be better than me. So I went over to the tight end line. And I'm catching balls. And we had a white line coach called Pat Naughton. He was the head lines coach, offensive line coach. I caught a ball, and I said, Coach Naughton, good day, ain't it? He said, hey, Blaine, we don't have no nigger tight ends at Purdue. I flipped him the ball, and I ran back over to the other side. These are stories that I usually only tell to insiders because it's so shocking. But, I don't take nothing away from Purdue, but every now and then you go run into that one knucklehead. So, that was probably the first thing that I saw. I gave him back the ball. I ran back over to the defensive end side. And this is when we had J-pads. Guys play now with bare arms. We didn't do that. I should have brought that picture for you. When you see me, man, I had all my stuff on. Only my fingernails stuck out. That was the only thing stuck out on me. I might have some pictures here for you guys as you guys ask me questions.
Do you think, I know you only play defensive end, but do you think what did you play? Did you play both sides of the ball in high school?
Yes. That's a picture of me. I love that picture of me.
My goodness. That's tough. So do you think your time in high school playing on both sides of the ball really matured you as a lineman to know how the offensive side of the ball works and defensive side of the ball works?
It did, and it got you ready to compete on a high level because in high school, and I get into this discussion with people all the time, in high school you can afford to go two ways because the strain on you and the other players' ability to compete with you is going to be on par. When you get in college, and I explain it like this, out of 11 players on a football field in high school, you probably got 4 people who can really flat out play.
Yeah, that's a
And
point,
in
yeah.
college, you got, them same 11 guys, offense and defense. You might have 6 or 7 guys who can flat out play. When you get to the NFL, everybody on the field can flat out play.
Yeah.
Even the dude you may think he's not that good,
Right.
you run up on that dude and you got a second thought. But in high school, I did everything I could because I didn't know what I was good at. I was the 16th child of 17 children, 8th boy out of 8 boys. I grew up watching my brothers, and we were new to Gary. We didn't move to Gary till I was 4. So, you're talking 58. And when I came up, I watched my older brothers. They built a reputation in Gary of just being the Smith boys was killers. And I still said some of my sisters was tougher than the Smith boys. But you didn't even want to mess with them. When they fixed dinner and they told you to eat, you ate. And you were glad to eat and didn't have no gripe.
Okay. So, your time in college when you were at Purdue, who is the hardest? Because you said you played defensive. Okay, so who is the hardest person that you had to bring down in college? Wow. At your time at Purdue.
Well, see, we had Mike Pruitt, who later played with the Cleveland Browns. We had, I'm trying to. It was just a host of tough guys there. We had Larry Burton, who was a AAU sprinter. Played a little bit with the New Orleans Saints. He was a speed burner. Mike Northington, Mike Pruitt, Jim Swank, Skabinski. But the toughest person probably to hit every day, and I had to hit him every day because he blocked me as when I was a freshman, was Pete Gross, a senior fullback. Back in the day, if the tight end blocked down, the defensive end had to step in and set the force. Pete Gross was the fullback, senior fullback. Wasn't very big, probably 6'2", about 215, but he had mastered the art of uncoil. And when I was a freshman, and this is no lie, gentlemen, every time he hit me, I had my bell ring. But you couldn't go down because you're fighting for a spot.
Yeah.
And you just stumble back to the huddle, lean on your guys, get the next play, clap, and come back out there and hope they're running the other way, because you got to remember, this is practice. So this was every day. Now, in a scrimmage, Mike Pruitt was a speedster from out of Chicago. He had those huge, humongous thighs, and he had speed. So you had to hit him up high. But you got to remember, when we played, too, we were cap-to-cap tacklers. Yeah. So you almost, you wanted to go cap-to-cap because you cut everybody's ability for a moment. And you keep your legs driving, and you just drive through the hit and hope you're not the one going backwards.
Okay, so I remember before the show you were talking about Walter Payton. So what was he like?
Well, I had a chance as a rookie, and Walter was in his second or third year, and this is just preseason, and he's returning punts. And I'm down the field quick and early. I got him lined up. He pulls the ball down. I hit him in the chest. He starts shaking, and as I hit him in the chest, he lunges at me and hit me. And I'm sliding down the body. He's gaining yards. Finally, I got one leg wrapped, and my boys came over and took him out. And one more shake, as I was telling you guys earlier, he'd have been gone. Now, he was a monster of a person to tackle because he had mastered that art of attacking the ball, the tackler when he was the ball carrier. He was a load, too, because he wasn't a big guy. Probably 5'8", 5'9", about 205. Yeah, and I'm talking about all man, all tough, just a physical specimen. And he never took a play off, and his workout habits were so powerful that he never really needed that second blow. You know, he didn't need the second blow. He was always fresh and ready to go.
You have any questions?
Well, all right. So I think you already asked this one, but what was your favorite hit you laid out on somebody?
Oh man, now see, I wish I'd have wrote some of this stuff down because Notre Dame. I just see as I tell these stories, these guys' names come back. Bullock was their fullback, and I didn't like to blitz because the blitz made me slice in between the tight end and the tackle, the offensive tackle. You had Joe DiNardo, and you had Ken McAfee from Notre Dame. These dudes are all Americans. I'm all Big Ten, and I know I got a slice because it's third and about 4. They hand the ball to Bullock. I crash down in between these guys, get so low my elbow is scraping the ground, and when I come up, all I see is a knee, and I just lunge my head at it. I hit Bullock. And I didn't know what was happening until I saw it in the film on Monday. But he was helicoptering. Ball comes out. Purdue recovers the ball. We're going the other way.
I think I saw that video.
Yeah, and that was one of the hardest hits. That was one of my hardest hits. But one of my better plays was when I chased down the Big Ten champ from Wisconsin, Billy Merrick, on an 80-yard breakaway run. He breaks around on the right side of the ball. I see him, and I knew if I'd ever catch him, I had to pick him off at the pass. So I actually turned my back to him and came from across the field as he was ducking and putting the moves on people. I caught him at about the 20, snatched him, crashed him, elbowed him in the back of the head, which would have been a foul today.
Yeah.
And when he saw me, he said, "Damn, Blaine, where did you come from?" I said, "Billy, I had you all the way."
So for the people that are just now joining us, welcome back to a new season of All Eyes on the Ball with your host, Dylan Cotton, and my co-host, Connor Cotton over here. Today we have a very special guest by the name of Blaine Smith, former NFL player. If you're just now joining us, quick little background information. 7th round draft pick to the Cleveland Browns. Played for Cleveland, Green Bay, New York. Played 11 seasons from 76 to 86, and was an All-American at Purdue. So, and we actually finally now have a Cash App for you guys to be able to send us donations if you really like the show. Yes, the Cash App will be, the Cash App is already going to be All Eyes on the Ball, and yeah, if you want to help us gain popularity, donate, it'll be very nice. I cannot talk. I'm so sorry. But, you're watching All Eyes on the Ball, currently being streamed live on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, Instagram, all the other top social media platforms out there. And if you like what you're listening to and if you enjoy our show, make sure to email WJZZ. Oh, wait a minute. Actually, make sure to email alleyesontheball@gmail.com if you have any sponsor interests or if you have anybody that you guys would like to see on the show. So thank you for watching WJZZ Cool TV, the coolest station in the world. So, you still keep up with football today, right?
Yeah, I keep up with it, but I tell people this. I'm not as much of a fan of sports as I'm a player.
I feel
Yeah, and see, I tell people that, and they say, "Well, how come you're not a fan?" Nah, I don't care about being a fan, because fans actually scare me, because the fan is short for fanatics. Yeah. And when you see the way people dress up in the dog pound at Cleveland and the way people dress up in the old Oakland Coliseum, and when you see that, you're like, okay, man, I know you like the team, but that's a little bit much. Yeah, that's a little bit much. But yeah, I'm a player. I played basketball up until I was 59 years old, competitively in the leagues in and around Detroit. Won a couple of championships, had a couple of undefeated seasons. But the only reason I did that, not that I was that good of a basketball player, I'm a power forward and I'm nasty, because I will play football on the basketball field. But I've been blessed to play with some great point guards, and one young guy from here, he's they may know him out there in y'all viewership, is Eddie Powell, consummate point guard from out of Detroit. Just a beautiful player. He'll remind you sort of any great point guard you've ever watched. But yeah.
So keeping up, well, not necessarily keeping up with football, but just like knowing how football is today and knowing how football was back then. I mean, just like hearing stories, this just proves that the league has gotten soft.
Yeah.
Well, I see football is never a soft game because it's so violent. You can get drastically injured at any moment, or if you do the wrong thing, you can get killed. But what they've did is put so many rules in that the nastiness of a true offensive player or a true defensive player, you can't do what we used to do.
Yeah.
I mean, back in the day, the guys that I watched, Deacon Jones, Willie Davis, that head slap where the defender comes off the ball and pops that offensive lineman in the head and dead in his ears, that's outlaw. Oh, yeah.
He get ejected in his first game.
The clothesline, a guy's coming around you and you're being blocked and you can't get loose and you just shoot this under his neck and he swings. Yeah, he swings like he's on a clothesline, and you guys don't remember running through the backyard and hitting the clothesline, do you?
I've never done that before.
Yeah, that'll hit you around your neck, and you look like a child on a swing. Your feet are doing like that while your neck's on the thing. And then we talked about it a little bit earlier, the face-to-face tackle where you come up and you're leading with your face. Some people say head, but that's wrong. You never hit with the crown of the head. They taught us to hit with the face because you had that face mask and you want to drive that through the guy to his vertebrae.
Okay.
So they took a lot of that out. It was brutal. Some of the guys, you guys want to look up Tatum from Ohio State. They called him the assassin. The league is sort of don't like to talk about Jack Tatum because he was so vicious as a free safety, as a
I know what
cornerback.
that is.
Yeah, you know who it is because you've seen him. He was the one that hit Darryl Stingley and paralyzed Darryl Stingley. And Darryl Stingley. Yeah, and Darryl Stingley was a Purdue guy. I actually met Darryl Stingley the first night I was being recruited. Otis Armstrong and Darryl Stingley was introduced to me by Randy Clark, who later became my roommate at Purdue.
Oh, and if y'all want to, like I said before earlier in the show, if you guys want to call in to the show and ask Blaine some questions for yourself, the call-in number for the show is 313-355-6018. I think it'll probably be somewhere like in this area right there for you guys to remember the calling number. Okay, so next, I got so many questions. So all right. You got a question?
All right, yeah, I have a question. So from the 70s to now, so you know how running backs coming into this generation to the 2020s, their value is starting to rapidly devaluate from the 70s and to the mid to late 2000s. Running backs, you had to have that guy who could run the ball efficiently, powerfully,
20,
and
30
lay people
times.
out. Yep, lay people out, but my bad, and lay people out like that. But see, now running backs are getting 15 carries a game or something like that. So what have you noticed about the running back position from when you played to now?
I don't think the running backs are any less of a player. I think what the league has done, the technology behind football, has said what every defensive player, and I've always said, you will not run over me. But if you throw it over my head before I can either sack you or bat it down, I'm just like every other spectator. I got to turn and watch the flight of the ball. And that's why you see an uptick in the passing. You'll see, when I was a child, you might see 20. If you saw 22 to 25 passes, the quarterback had to soak his arm. Now you'll see 50, 55, almost 60 passes in a game. If a game is a 82 or 85 play game and you're throwing 60 times, that's only going to leave a running back 15, 20 carries. And now what they do too with players, which we didn't do in the day, they shuttle people in and out. You would have saw Jim Brown come out of the game. Jim Brown was going to run that ball 30, 35 times, and you had to deal with it. When he wasn't running it 30, 35 times, the fullback or the other halfback was going to get the ball. Now you've only got a one-back set. You've turned the halfback or the left halfback into a flanker. You've turned the fullback into another tight end. So everything is generated on passing the ball.
All my football players should definitely be listening.
It's interesting, and this is good for young guys. You need to figure out what do you want to play and why do you want to play it. And then the other thing with sports, if you're looking at sports long term, you want to find out what pays the most money. And I'm honest with children now. If I was a young guy now, I would learn how to punt and I'd learn how to kick. Because you can do 19, 20 years at about 800 to $1 million a year just kicking the ball. Can't get hit. If somebody hits you, more than likely it's a penalty. But this is what I tell young guys. You know, you may want to be that fast wide receiver. You may want to be something beautiful like a running back, defensive end, whatever. But the real money is in place kicking and punting, and it's just the way to go.
Yeah, especially nowadays, you can't hit the kicker. You can block the kick. Block the punt, but you can't hit the kicker.
Yeah, you've got to block. You've got to block the kick to hit the kicker. If you don't block the kick, and then if you really gonna block a kick, you're going to go about 18 inches in front of the kicker and lay out. Because if you go straight at the kicker, you're probably going to get 15-yard penalty. Yep.
And another chance to re-kick it.
But that was an excellent question about running backs. They've so devalued the running backs that now they've cut what a running back can ask for as a maximum salary too. Everything now is sort of geared toward the salary cap. Where will we put the money to build a winning team? And that is so important now because everybody want to dog the Lions. and they're trying to rebuild. Coach is trying to change the culture, and I'm sort of up in the air about the coach, but I can see what he's trying to do. But now, do we have the horses in the stable to play with these real good teams? And when you look around, Lions got 53 men on the roster. I guarantee you, some of them are NFL ready. Not every Sunday.
We'll talk about that.
Yeah.
So since you played in the same era as Jim Brown, and
I was a little bit after him, but I remember him. I grew up watching. Jim Brown actually was my impetus back 62, 63. Finally, Dad get a black and white TV because Kennedy got killed. Once Kennedy was killed in November, everybody went out and bought TVs in the black neighborhood. Before that, only the people in our neighborhood who had money had a TV, and nobody had a color TV. But anyway, Thanksgiving, my sisters are jumping up, and they usually wasn't watching no sports. They watching Wuthering Heights and Heidi and all of that kind of stuff. And they're cheering for this guy. And I said, who's that guy? They said, that's Jim Brown. I said, how much he make? They said, he make about $35,000 a year. I said, how much Daddy make? You know, I'm 7 or 8 years old at the time. I'm just a little guy. And they said, oh, Dad make about $1,800. I really didn't know what that was, but one of my older sisters made me write it out. And when they told me, I said, how do I get $35,000? They said, you got to do push-ups and sit-ups and be good in sports. I looked at all my older brothers. They were good at sports, so I started doing my push-ups and sit-ups, and I set my sight to get to the NFL. I'm 7 or 8 years old.
Okay, so what was, like, I know watching the game, what was the broadcasting like?
Oh man, I'm gonna tell you, it was early, so it's not as beautiful as it is now, and it's not as synchronized as it is now. But I'll tell you what, when you watch the old guys, Irv Cross, he was one of the first black guys. He was a defensive back. He had retired. He came back and did football for CBS. He would be like an on-field reporter. You'd have Kirk Gowdy, Chris Schenkel. You'd have all Pat Summerall. You'd have all those guys. But the beauty of the game, they were just starting to get color cameras, color, broadcasting, and just the slow motion when you would see these guys play. You know, I used to always fixate on the defense because I was for somebody stopping guys, And it was just beautiful, man, to watch. And it was a fight out there. And I grew up in Gary, which is not too far from Detroit, probably 240 miles, 30 miles from Chicago. So I grew up being an NFC Central guy. And the scores are what fascinates me now, because the score now, everybody wants to see 38-35.
It's a lot
I'm used to seeing 6-3
Yeah,
on a snowy, cold, wet field where guys are muddy. Now when guys fall down a lot, they either come up green or they painted the field with some red or something. Yeah, you don't see the mud anymore, but you see the grass stains.
What was the score of that game in 2013 with the Lions and the Eagles when they played in the snow? What was the score of that game?
I forgot.
Was it a close one or a blowout?
I think it was kind of like a close one because I remember
Like 9-6, 13-9.
No, it was still higher, but
like 30 something, 30-27.
You keep talking.
I was thinking of like
you keep talking. You keep talking.
All right. One more thing. So like I want to see a 35-33 game or like 13-9 game. But still, see now when it comes to younger fans, I'm guilty of this in general. So I was watching the Saints and Buccaneers game about I think 2 weeks ago, and I was thinking about midway through the third quarter, it was I think 6-0. And I think
defensive battle.
Yeah, and I switched the game off as fast as possible. I just went upstairs and just played Madden after that. Because, the game was just...
Wait, never mind. I'm tweaking. Continue.
Because the game was, just not fun to watch. It was boring. But,
Well, see, you say it's boring, but what it is a defensive struggle. The offensive coordinators and the defensive coordinators, they're matching wits. And they're actually, if you can imagine, chess on a full scale, they're checking and matching each other's every move. You've got that slick running back. You've got that slick receiver where he goes and runs a pattern and he's free and the quarterback times the ball just perfect. But if I'm bringing heat and if I'm closing on this guy and if I got some real good defensive backs in his face all night, That's what I like to see. My alma mater was in the Music City something bowl a couple of weeks back. The final score in overtime was 48-45, and I about pulled my hair out. And as you gentlemen can see, I shave every day. I couldn't stand it. If I'm a organization owner or a head coach and we lose a game 45-48, defensive coordinator's fired. That should never happen. That should never happen.
Was it Utah and Ohio State?
Well, that was another 45-48. That was 45-48. I watched both of those games.
Yeah, the receiver had 300 yards.
One receiver had 300 yards. That is, at some point, see, we talked about some guys. Jack Tatum would have killed that guy.
Oh, wow.
He wouldn't have never, after he caught 2-3 balls on Jack, he would not, he'd have been out. But see, the league, and see, I'll give you guys a little insight. The NFL, to everybody on the inside, is called the shield. They never want the shield's value to be damaged. You hurt somebody like, who's that young guy at Kansas City, Bell, or the quarterback, Mahomes, or Rodgers. You hurt one of them guys, and it's almost illegal. You're gonna get fined, and if it's really nasty, you could get suspended.
Yeah, I've actually noticed that, because like, if you hurt, I've actually noticed that, because like, if you hurt, because Derrick Henry got hurt, and I think I don't know offhand, but I'm just assuming when Derrick Henry got hurt for the season, the ratings for the Titans games went down.
Oh, absolutely.
Derrick Henry's their best player.
Absolutely. That's their big running back from Alabama.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We got a caller. Bring him in. Hello? Hello?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
I just want to ask your guest, did you ever play against Hacksaw Reynolds and Ted Hendricks?
No, but I remember those guys. Those are some of the guys that I watched back in the day. And see, Hacksaw Reynolds and Ted Hendricks are the kind of guys I grew up emulating, because they were just dogs on the field. Their whole job was to maim and get after you to where you wanted to go drink some water or some Gatorade at the time.
So who was the most vicious defender offensively that you had to deal with?
In college, I always go back to college, because that's when I really played the most from scrimmage. Fullback named Mosi Tutupu at USC. He blocked for Ricky Bell. Before we played Ricky Bell in 75 and 76, he had rushed for over 200 yards, and everybody said that Ricky Bell would rush for 300 yards against Purdue. As tough as Mosi Tutupu was, my first time I ever played against a Samoan guy, we knocked Ricky Bell out of both of those games with only 80 yards that he carried against Purdue. But see, that's what I remember. In the NFL, I just chased a lot of punts and kickoffs. I didn't really get a chance to show, because I tell people this, and people don't believe it, but I was Lawrence Taylor 4 or 5 years before Lawrence Taylor. I had the speed. I ran a 4.5, 5.40, and I could really get at you at 6'5", 248. But that's the guy I remember. And then another guy I remember being a hard guy to bring down was Pete Johnson from Ohio State, fullback, 6'2", about 260 pounds. He was a man mountain on the football field too. Those are the kind of guys I remember, sir.
All right, thanks for that.
Hey, you're welcome. Thanks for the call.
All right, so back to talking about injuring key players. I actually believe what you're saying in that, because it's kind of like that with all sports, including the NBA. Because like, if you injure, like last year, LeBron got injured. He was out for like a month and a half. I feel like the Lakers ratings went down because literally he's in people's eyes the GOAT. I mean, he's my GOAT just because I grew up.
You grew up with
him.
me too. Yeah.
I never I will look back at like old Michael Jordan videos to see like all the crazy stuff that he did, but I never like got to watch him in person.
See, nothing is wrong with that, because you grow up interlocked at what you saw as a child. I remember Jim Brown as a running back. You guys are so young, y'all may want to put this in your sort of look-up book, but Gale Sayers, played with Chicago, and he was a fantastic,
I knew that.
fantastic running back until he injured his knee, and it sort of killed his career. Then everybody look at OJ now because he got scorned because of being implicated in that double murder, but he was a heck of a running back. It's so many great people that come along that you see, and in basketball, I grew up watching a young Lou Alcindor, which ended up being Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and Oscar Robinson. But you grow up and you get accustomed to who you see on TV all the time, and nothing is wrong with that. And now what every league is doing is the same thing I told you the Shield do, the NFL. I must protect my valuable product, and my most valuable product is a walking, breathing human. And that's why, and see, you guys may not know this, when I was in the league, a player couldn't own a motorcycle. Now they'll let you own a motorcycle, but if you remember Jay Williams on ESPN, when he graduated, was it Duke or North Carolina? Duke. When he graduated, first round draft choice, bought a motorcycle, injured himself in the driveway, never could play again. See, back when I played, you couldn't own a motor. If you were under contract in the NFL, you couldn't own a motorcycle. When they kicked me out the NFL, I bought my first Harley Davidson motorcycle. Rode for 3 years, and then I sold it back to Harley Davis because everybody's trying to kill you when you're on a motorcycle.
So if you're just now joining us, you should already know who we are by now. Dylan Cotton, Connor Cotton, just for new people that don't know. Special guest on the show today, Blaine Smith, former NFL player, 7th round draft choice, 184th pick, played for Cleveland Browns, Green Bay Packers, New York Jets, and he's graciously I don't know what I'm trying
graciously
to say.
agreed to be on the show.
Agreed to be on, thank you. Graciously agreed to be on the show with us today. Currently watching All Eyes on the Ball, currently being streamed on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, Instagram, all the other top social media platforms. And if you want to call in to ask Blaine some questions for yourself that we might have not gotten to yet, call-in number for the show is 313-355-6018. And yeah, thank you for watching WJDZ Cool TV, the coolest station in the world. Right. So, and I found out the score for that game was 34-20.
See, that's a tight game now because if you only a couple of touchdowns down, if you can get the ball back, score with maybe 2-3 minutes to go, an onside kick. If I get that back, now it's up to me to execute. And that's another thing we probably want to talk about. Pro ball, once you get past high school ball, and coaches try to teach this in high school ball, but children get too excited because I volunteered and coached for 3 years before the pandemic over at Detroit Central. Execution is key. And to execute every day in practice, every day in pre-practice, which starts with your winter ball, your weight conditioning, your running in the hallways when nobody sees you, that's when you start to come together as a team and you get to trust each other and execute. I see the way you two guys play off of each other. Y'all know each other. Y'all like each other. Y'all trying to accomplish something. That's what a team is trying to do. Championship, 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 and nothing matters other than that. Anybody who breaks up that, you got to go.
Yeah, most definitely. So, we're going to talk about the Lions right now. So, I remember earlier in the show, you said that you were up in the air about the coach. You like him, but you don't. You're kind of like in the middle. Why is that?
I haven't seen enough. A statistic just came out, and he's the first guy to do it. Mike Tomlin at the Pittsburgh Steelers. 15 years and never a losing season.
Yeah.
So what he's showing you is if you can put the right people together, give them the right game approach, the right practice approach, the right approach coming to the stadium. See, football starts so much earlier than getting dressed and on the field. It's the look when you roll your car into the the parking lot.
Yeah.
You don't want to be just walking in at 5 o'clock or 2 o'clock. You want to be sitting out there waiting for the guy to open the door. Then when it's over with, you want to be the last dude to leave. For whatever reason you do that, people like that. But that's the beauty of what this is about, and that is the culture that the new coach is trying to change. Now, I've been in Detroit since 91, and every time I talk to a true Detroiter, they're down in the mouth because they haven't won since the 50s. Now you guys are so young. In the 50s, Detroit was a killer. They were one of the toughest teams in the league. 2 or 3 championships. You know, they were legendary.
Before the merger.
Yeah, before the merger, before TV got big back then. But the new guy is trying to change all of the bad feelings, all of that, and get them to think of winning at all costs and have everybody pull in the same direction. If you don't have all 53 of those guys and your players that sort of make up the practice squad, that's going to be about 10 or 15 guys, you got 68, 70 men that you're trying to have all going the same way. And remember, these guys are going to be from 20 to might be some 40-year-old dudes. You got dudes with families and children, and you got dudes still chasing hotties. You know, so now I got to get all these minds on the same page and pull the same way every day in practice and every game. It's tough. I don't know if they should be listening, because I was the kind of athlete when Coach said, let's go, I tear the wall down. Since I was a little boy, I did that. Okay. You know, so I don't understand when a player isn't doing what he's supposed to be doing in a game that he chose to play. Because you got to want to do this. I mean, I told y'all my story since I was 7 or 8. I saw Jim Brown. My sisters told me 2 things that I love. They said, if a guy makes that much money, he going to get all the women. Yeah. What else you want?
Got a point. So for the people that want to call into the show still, the number is 313-355-6018. It should be somewhere, like, up there. I don't know, but yeah, it should be somewhere up there. 313-355-6018. All right, ask your question.
All right, well, technically 2 questions.
All right.
So, when you played, well, yeah, I'll put you over here. All right, so when you played, one thing I've noticed is that from like the 70s, offenses were just completely and utter garbage. Like, for a simple fact that one of the Falcons teams in the 70s, like, it was common to average under like 10 points a game. And I was wondering, what have you seen from offenses back then to about now?
It's the passing. Yeah. See, if you're trying to go 80 yards, 75 yards, and you're getting 3 yards, what was Ohio State's thing from Woody Hayes, 3 yards in a cloud of dust? If you do that 3 times, you still got 4th and 1 to go before you get a first down. Yeah. And if you do that all the way up the field, it's going to take about, 16, 17 plays? That's going to be about 9, 10 game minutes. And remember, game minutes are longer than regular time. Regular time, if it takes you 9 minutes in a game, that's actually about 15 to 20 minutes in real life. Somebody's going to jump off sides. Yeah. Somebody's going to get caught holding. Yeah. Somebody might fumble. Somebody's going to do something. Yeah. The pass eliminates that. If I can have 6 or 7 passes where I'm scooping up 12 yards, 17 yards, don't let me hit you for 45 or 50 or the bomb. Because my biggest fear is a defensive end. I'm closing on that quarterback, and I see him do this. It's gone. Yeah, I can still hit him. I might get a rough in the passer, but even if I get that and he drops it, now they just picked up 15 yards for a first down. If he catches it, he's either 60 yards downfield or he's doing the little end zone shuffle. Right. I mean, the game has become much more lethal on one bad coverage, one bad mistake. And the game has just changed. Instead of so much of the incremental movement up the field, 3 yards, 7 yards, 6 yards, you hope a good running back will break for 14, 15, maybe 20. You hope you got a home run hitter, but it's very few guys get to do that, because before I hit a home run, I need about 6 or 7 yards to see how the defense is trying to play me. And then if my line is blocking correctly and they open it up and I can get to that second level or third level, when they talk about getting to the second level, that means a linebacker's got to deal with me and I'm in full mode running. Ain't nobody hanging on me. If somebody's hanging on me, they go close on me. But if I just bust through there, man, that's beautiful. But you don't see that too often. And when you do see it, it is a beautiful thing to watch. When they bust through that first line of defense and to the linebackers and don't say nothing, they get to the running to the cornerbacks, safeties. Yeah, Katie bar the door.
That's kind of how it is in basketball too. Cause like I feel like all sports has changed since the 70s because
Yep.
basketball was more of an inside to outside game, but nowadays it's more outside to
Outside
inside.
in.
Everybody shooting threes and all that. And just like you were saying for football, it's more passing. Quarterbacks want to be flashy just for TV ratings and all that.
Well, also, and you both of you guys hit on something that's big. It's for the ratings. Young folks like y'all don't want to. See, I'll sit there 9-3, and I'm gonna be on my second drink or something because I'm enjoying. Somebody's getting their head rocked.
Yeah.
But young folks don't want to see that. They want to see a game of 32-35. 42-45.
Like even 23-20.
Yeah, but it's got to be exciting. And that's why games like hockey has even picked up. When I was a child, hockey score might be 1-0, 2-1. Now you'll see a 9-6. If a goalie gave up 9 goals back in the day, he was fired. Yeah, he was fired back in the day. You get pulled after 5 goals because that means you can't stop nothing. Whatever you was doing today, you come sit by the coach.
And the thing is, I would love to see a 38-33 game, like a 9-6 game, like a 15-12, 15-10, like 19-13.
Okay, so
But see, the thing is, I don't want to see like 9-6 every single game. That's the thing.
I mean, okay, so like I guess you guys like back in the 70s, you guys like 9-6, 10-6, and all that. That's like a modern day 15-12.
Yeah, 21-14.
Yeah, that's.
And see, I'm gonna tell you, back in the day, guys like Don Coryell invented that multiple pass offense. That started to open things up. And then what was so beautiful, the more you opened it up with speed, the more black players you had to get. Or you had to find some white players or Latino players or Samoan players to bring that speed. Because the first thing I look at, everybody's upset this week because the SEC is going to play the SEC for the national championship.
Oh, yeah.
But if you look at the SEC when they play anybody else, the speed and the size of the men, and I do mean men, it's like men against boys. Because them dudes they faster, they're bigger, and they're stronger.
That's how it's always been.
And I always tell people, and I got this from playing at Purdue, count the black guys on the field.
That's how it's always.
Folks don't want to be honest about that, but you count the black guys on the field. And that's going to let you know, that's going to be a big indicator of who's got a leg up.
Okay, so I have a question. So I know you were talking about how back in the day it used to be it wasn't all that flashy pass to receiver, 35, 40-yard bombs and all that. It was just like quick, short passes just to get up the field, and then it would be like that big play to get the touchdown. So who in today's era of football kind of resembles how it was quarterback-wise? Who is that quarterback that kind of has that like quick plays, get up the field, not just like straight bombs?
You know, it's interesting. Everybody is capable of, as that one guy said, matriculating the ball up the field. Yeah. It's just how do you want to do it? Because remember, with the skill and the talent of these guys today, if well coached, they can do it either way you want to do it. You've got guys who can sling that ball 70 or 80 yards. I remember once Stafford, they donated about $200,000. The Lions did. Golden Tate and all them dudes came over to Central practice. They had a Ford F-150 and a trailer full of equipment. And Stafford was just out there playing around with our wide receivers, and they sent a couple of guys long, and Stafford just told them, keep going, keep going, keep going. When they got about 60 yards, he hung it out. Our guys ran under it at 80 yards. So they're capable of throwing the bomb. Is the coach relaxed enough to call that bomb? Yeah. So that's why you see so many of the out patterns toward the sideline where they call it, you want to throw it to the back shoulder so the defensive back can't cut in and get it. Yeah. A lot of stuff has become strategic like that. But if it's just an all-out game, any of the top quarterbacks, if you look at the top probably 5, 6 guys, they can get it down the field any way you want it. It's just, is the offensive coordinator comfortable enough to make that call? And then with the proliferation of black quarterbacks, what you got to throw in there too is another thought. Is this white guy going to be comfortable with this black guy running the franchise. I mean, it's a lot of things that as fans we never think about, but they got betting on your phone, they got betting everywhere, and some people don't know what they're betting on.
Why look at me when you said that? Why look at me when you said that?
No reason. You got a question?
No, I just want to figure out why you looked at me like that when you said that.
You got fantasy.
Huh?
You got fantasy.
Yeah, I know I have fantasy football.
Fantasy. I remember a young lady I know. She was a doctor, and she was a principal at a lot of schools. And when fantasy got real big, because it was the first thing that brought up betting, but she asked me, she said, Blaine, do you play fantasy? I said, no, I don't understand it, because I don't know how you take a guy from this team, and all I want are their stats. I could be world champion if I could guess who was going to have a 10 for 300-yard game on a given day. Like y'all were talking about that one receiver in the Ohio's. And I'm going to tell you what, that guy had a heck of a game. But I'm surprised back in the day, somebody would have knocked that dude block off.
Half of it, back in the day, it wouldn't. Like, if some of the people that you were saying, like Jack Tatum and Mike Pruitt, if they played today, it would not be all this flashy. Like,
well, I don't know, because, see,
maybe not as much.
No, I have a buddy in Chicago, and I always said, man, if I made that kind of money, I'd be the same way. And you know what he told me? And we're real good friends. And Al Gossett said, Blaine, if you made that much money, would you still care as much? See, that's a thought that gets in your head. When my first contract with Cleveland was $35,500. $35,500, and they gave me $15,000 a bonus, and I bought me a brand new Cadillac 1977 Candy Red Eldorado. But now a guy getting drafted, they don't go that far anymore, 7 rounds. But say a guy get drafted in the 2nd round, or he signs as a free agent and he's real good, he's probably going to get a bonus of $500,000, $600,000. Yeah. He's going to come in, minimum salary, I think this year was $800,000 or $900,000 a year. Now, they pay you on a 17-game season, you get about 3 to 7% of it during preseason. If you make the team, then that's when every Tuesday is payday in the NFL. Tuesdays is payday and off day. It's your one off day. And you try to make the most. That's why you'll see guys getting in trouble Monday night and Tuesday night.
That's actually a valid point.
Matter of fact, just to give y'all another insight, I know we're running out of time. Back when I played, at the end of every game, there was 2 beers and an AC Grenadier cigar in every seat. When I was a rookie with Cleveland, I didn't play in the first game, so when I walked in, I see 2 beers and a cigar in my seat. So I go hide in the shower because I think somebody's trying to set me up and kick me out of the team. Because, you know, in college, you get caught drinking and you got a cigar in the locker room, you out. So I hide in the shower, and Joe Turkey Jones, who's a venerable veteran defensive end, played with Cleveland. He comes in and he see me looking around the corner like this. And Joe Turkey Jones say, hey, Rook, what you doing, boy? You scared, you young punk? He said, them beers for you. He said, I'm going to show you all the holy roller dudes on the team. We'll get their beers and we'll get their cigars and we'll drink them and smoke them. So that was my indoctrination into the NFL. I don't think they do it anymore because so many guys are getting in trouble, drunk driving and stuff. But back in the day, that was just.
You can't do that. You can't do that, no, period.
Yep.
College, especially in college.
College, I'll tell you another story. At Purdue, we're seniors, and we had lost our first 3 games. And Coach Geiger, he was our defensive end coach, and he didn't know what to do, how to turn us around. So we had a party at his house. He ordered pizza and ordered some beer. And me and Kim Kripe, the other defensive end, he was a senior. We sat there with the other defensive ends, and we watched films, and we talked. And we sort of turned it around, not turned it around to finish good enough to go to a bowl game, but we stopped the losing streak. But that was only the first time I ever had a beer with a coach in college, too. Oh, wow. Yeah, and I was a senior by then. That was we had lost our first 3 games that year. We opened up real bad.
You got it. No, I don't have any more questions.
So it looks like we are running out of time today. So yeah, sadly we're running out of time. Blaine, it was a pleasure to have you on the show. I definitely appreciated you taking time out of your day to come answer.
Hey, I want to thank you guys for having me, because some of these stories I only tell when I'm around my boys that have went through the war. So it was good. And then I like the way you guys run this. It's a young show. I knew you guys would know some of the younger stuff better than me, but the old time stuff, I lived and breathed that. So I'm appreciative for you guys just to have me on the show. And you guys keep doing what you're doing, because I like the way y'all hit off of each other and run your show.
Appreciate it.
Yep.
Really appreciate it. So that's all the time that we have for today's episode. We will be back next week. Same place, same time, same faces. And yeah, till next time.